Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is Reflected, a ham radio operator's miscellany. Episode number 4, Code 47, and the Magic Supply Chain. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. I know mine is starting off interesting anyway. Walked out to the lab this morning. It's currently 0400. I walked out here and realized it was 41 degrees in here. I had turned the heater off last night because it was about 80 degrees freedom in here, and I forgot to turn it back on. So, yeah. Fortunately, it's not that cold outside. I think it only got down to 0 degrees freedom. So this little building that my lab is in seems to retain heat pretty well. So I got lucky, basically. Anyway, we'll get into it. Code 47 and the Magic Supply Chain. As amateur radio operators, we tend to, gravitate towards like-minded people, and these people are kind of they kind of come from the same similar genre. The more techie people, the more, shall we say, nerdy people, and I don't know. People seem to think that the term geek or nerd is somehow derogatory. I like to wear it as a badge of honor. Really, I count myself fortunate to be considered among the ranks of nerds and geeks because, honestly, nerds and geeks are the type of people you want designing and building the future. So, anyway, as I was saying, we tend to gravitate towards like-minded people. And we're the type of people. I know I certainly am. I'm willing to bet you're probably the same way too. Oh, this isn't necessarily the case, and all the time, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But we have a understanding on how things work. We have a natural curiosity. We have a internal willingness to learn constantly. I know for myself, I am constantly trying to educate myself on new things and how things work and how things are put together, how things are manufactured. All that kind of cool, techie, fascinating stuff. Whether it's hardware or software, or firmware, or just crafting and cooking, and it doesn't matter. It really does not matter what the subject is. I love learning new things. I can't go through a single day without learning something. And I think some of that is because I like to consider myself a pretty observant person. I observe things around me. I'm constantly thinking, committing that stuff to memory. And I don't know, some of this may be down to my ASD, I guess, but if I'm not learning something, or if I'm not engaged in something educational, or something along those lines, it just drives me nuts. Even in even in fantasy world stuff, right? Sci-fi. For me, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars and Star Trek and that kind of stuff. Mainly because for me at least, it paints a picture of a future, especially in the world of Star Trek, that's positive for humanity. They're constantly learning new things. It's very technologically advanced. Science and engineering reigns supreme, and that's just the fact of life. Which got me to thinking, especially the other day. We're at the store, and like I said, I observe things and people and whatever else. And, standing there waiting for the rest of the family to kind of find the things that they're looking for. I'm pushing the cart, and I'm looking at all these people around me going about their business, and I can't help but start wondering, what is it like for them, because what's it like going through life having no understanding of the things around you? Like, I don't know, you go through electronic sections at Target, and you see a TV there. Do you think they wonder what monumental effort actually went into that TV being there? I mean, from the concept to drafting to engineering to mining of materials, manufacture of components, assembly of sub-assemblies, assembly of the end product, testing, marketing, packaging, shipping. All that is, to me, just an infinitely complex and fascinating thing to think about. But you look at some of these people and you wonder what's it like for them, because they don't have any concept of how that works. I often wonder if they look at stuff like that and think it's magic, that this stuff is just there on the shelf, and they like to complain about the prices. Oh, this is way too expensive. But when you consider the monumental effort that went into getting that thing there, the price seems pretty reasonable. Sure, yeah, with inflation these days, prices has kind of gone through the roof on a lot of this stuff. And that's the other thing. You look at prices on some of this stuff, and as a technically minded person who knows, or at least has a firm grasp of what goes into some of these products, the prices, some of the prices they want for this stuff is just absolutely ridiculous. They are 100%, some of these companies, preying on the fact that, like I just said, these people don't have a clue as to what goes into this stuff. You can take any name brand stuff. It doesn't matter if it's Motorola, if it's General Electric, if it's Whirlpool, in appliances, or KitchenAid or whatever. My personal favorite. Oh my God, here's my absolute personal favorite. Lawnmowers, right? So, like, you go to any big box store, look at the lawnmowers they got sitting there. And they've got Husqvarna, they've got Craftsman, they got John Deere, they got Toro. And for the most part, there's not much difference between them other than the color they've been painted and the name that's on the side of them. With the two exceptions being like Toro and John Deere. But even then, they're pretty darn similar. And the John Deere you buy at Lowe's isn't the same John Deere that you're going to get from a John Deere dealership, let me tell you. But these companies prey on the fact that there's the vast majority of people don't have a clue as to what goes into this stuff. They don't want to know what goes into this stuff. They rely solely on the marketing to guide them through life, and that's shocking, if you ask me. I almost never buy something based on the marketing. Marketing means nothing to me. If I see a product on a shelf in a store, I start thinking about, well, what good does it do me? What can I use it for? Not only the intended purpose that the manufacturer intended the purpose of it to be, but what else can I use it for? That's where the techie-minded person's brain goes. Is what else can I use this for? Not just what the manufacturer intended it to be for. So, like I was saying earlier, I don't know what it's like for these people to go through life thinking all this stuff is just magic, And I'm not saying they're all like that, but a vast majority, I bet, are. Because it's these same type of people that fall for, every internet scam you come across. The Nigerian prince needs $500. Send your email and your bank account information. Yeah, okay, whatever. They're the same type of people that write their passwords down on a sticky note and stick it to their display or whatever, instead of using a password manager. And like I use Bitwarden. And I don't know any of my passwords. Bitwarden does. I'm gonna leave it up to that. So boy. Anyway, I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that there's a ever-growing chasm between the techie person and we'll say the lay person, I guess, the person who just kind of plods through life thinking everything is magic and everything's hunky-dory and everything's okay. Excuse me. And then the rest of us who understand what's going on around us, there's a famous saying that says depression is directly linked depression is directly linked with intelligence. The more intelligent a person is, the more sad they are. And especially these days, how that couldn't be more true. The more aware you are of your surroundings, the more aware you are of how things are done, how things are manufactured, how life works around you, the more sad and depressed you are because you realize how screwed society really is right now. And that's getting into some pretty heavy duty topics, and I don't like bringing the show down that much. I like to kind of try and keep it lighthearted. So I guess with that in mind, let's get back to the point here. I was saying earlier that not everybody in ham radio is like this. Not a techie-minded person, and I've certainly run into these people on the air before. Some people like to call them appliance operators. And I guess that's one way to put it. I guess I think something more accurate thing to say is that they just want to turn the thing on and get on the air. They have no interest in how it works. They have no interest in how it was made. They have no interest in how RF works or propagation or any of that. They just want to get on the air and participate in a contest or something like that, or get on the air and talk to somebody. At least in that case, they're wanting to talk to people, right? If they're just getting on the air to participate in a contest, I mean, to me, it's just utterly pointless. Excuse me. Yeah, don't even get me on contesting. That don't even get me started on contesting. That's a whole other episode. But, yeah, you hear them on the air all the time. They're talking about these fancy new rigs they've got, and there's nothing wrong with having the top of the line, the cutting edge HF radio or VHF or whatever it is. Nothing wrong with that at all. Where I kind of take issue is when you have no understanding of what you're using. Then you get in there and you start playing, or they get in there and they start playing with menu settings and screwing around with a bunch of stuff, and pretty soon they've made their radio unusable. It doesn't work right for them. They're getting terrible audio reports, they're terrible signal reports, and then they leave a negative review on DX Engineering or HRO or something like that. This radio is a piece of garbage. It doesn't work. Or my personal favorite is, I think it's got to go back for repair. I'm just going to send it in and have them fix it. It should be under warranty and stuff like that. It's like, why? You're a amateur radio operator. You should have the understanding to know how to fix these things. You certainly should have the understanding to know how to navigate through a simple menu. It's just unreal. The complaints and stuff I hear about menus and radios, it's like it's not that hard. I don't know. I find it interesting that someone can be of the mindset to want to get into amateur radio, but then not have any desire to learn about the equipment they're using. They just, it doesn't work, send it back. I can't wrap my mind around how a person like that, how their brain works. I just don't get it. Um, and the other thing is as an amateur radio operator, we're supposed to be, you know, um, promoting the hobby. We're supposed to be making it better. Advancing the radio art is a key tenet in amateur radio. And you get these people on the air that have no desire to learn new things, no desire to learn about how the equipment operates, no desire to learn how to improve their equipment. All they want to do is get on the air and participate in the contests and complain that their radio's too hard to use. So that in itself is very disappointing to me, at least. Um, it's that kind of mentality that's going to hold amateur radio back. Fortunately, there's a lot of new hams getting into the hobby. A lot of new hams. You're seeing these new hams showing up, doing things like this, doing a podcast, having a YouTube channel, being on social media. Getting the hobby out there for where the young where the young crowd is, right? In these days, the young crowd is out there in social media. They're on TikTok. They're on Twitter. They're on Twitter. Oh my God, yeah, they're on Twitter. They're on Facebook. Some of them still. Facebook is getting pretty long in the tooth itself. So they're keeping up with the times. They're keeping amateur radio relevant, and they're drawing new people into it, which is absolutely fantastic. We need more of that. The new digital modes that are coming out and I say new digital modes because there are a lot of new ones, but there are also digital modes that have been around for forever. Morse code, the original digital mode. And certainly, like I was just saying, the equipment needs to advance too. People like to complain about radios like the Xiegu, the G90. Oh, it's a cheap Chinese radio. Yeah, it's a cheap Chinese radio, but it works, and it works extremely well. And it gets HF radios, in the hands of people who want to start playing with it. It's absolutely fantastic as far as I'm concerned. You shouldn't have to spend $1,000 on an HF rig to get on the air. You know what I mean? And that person who bought that Xiegu G90 shouldn't be shamed on the air because they didn't spend $1,000 on a radio. Same thing with the people who buy the Bofang radios. They shouldn't be shamed because they spent $25 on a handheld radio if it gets them on the air, right? They're showing an interest. They want to learn something new, and they should be commended for that. Later on, maybe you can gently nudge them towards more quality equipment, but let them figure it out on their own for the most part. The idea that you have to spend all this money to get on the air is pretty ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned. So, the other thing that you will notice with like-minded individuals, techie like-minded individuals, is the willingness to help each other. And it seems like this kind of, I'm not going to group web forums in with this because web forums it does not matter what forum you go to. They're all just dick comparison, dick comparing websites is all it is. Look how mean I can be. Look how smart I am. Even for myself, like I said, always learning, wanting to learn something new. Pretty well versed in a lot of things already, but every once in a while, you run into an issue that you can't solve on your own. Even consulting the manufacturer documentation. Just recently, I ran into a problem programming a Motorola APX series radio, and I couldn't find any mention of the issue I was having in the documentation. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? So you start cruising through the forum, see if someone else is running this issue, And yeah, it turns out quite a few people have run into this issue. But every time they post a question, especially like Batboard, the Motorola themed um, forums, Batboard and Radio Reference and stuff like that. You post a question on there, I mean, the default response is, "Why don't you Google it?" We're not going to spoon feed you and that kind of stuff. You're shamed for asking a question, for not knowing, and that is just appalling as far as I'm concerned. For someone to presume that I haven't done the legwork on my end, that I haven't pursued the avenues that I have at my disposal, yeah, sure, I didn't go as far as calling up Mother Motorola herself and asking the question. But I did my due diligence. I have the factory documentation. That's more than most people have. You plus I have several years of experience, which again not everybody has. And for me to run into an issue and not be able to solve it, and then go to a forum, it's like, yeah, how dare you presume that I'm being lazy and I just want to be spoon fed? That's utterly appalling. And some of that stuff right there will turn new hams away. They're programming their Bofang or whatever. They run into an issue. What's the first thing you're going to do? As a new ham, you're going to go to Google. Why doesn't this particular feature work? How do I program this radio? And they're going to come across these forums where they're shamed about not knowing something. Shame on them for wanting to learn how to do something, right? And that just crushes them right out of the gate. You never know. It could be a 10-year-old kid who's learning how to program his first radio, and he goes to Google and asks, and he's got to deal with that. Absolutely appalling. So, man, this whole episode has just been full of negativity. Oh, man. I really try not to. I mean, I really do. I know it seems like everything I put out is, especially Unreflected, has been negative so far. But I really do try not to take it in that direction. But, man, some of this stuff just gets under my skin, frustrating. Just be nice, people. Seriously. But it's to the point, and it's like, even I don't go to the forums anymore. It's completely useless because, 90% of the time, you're just going to take flack for not knowing or asking the dumb question. But at least for me, anyway, I try to keep, this podcast and especially my YouTube channel as friendly as possible. I'm all over negative comments, and if someone asks a question about something that I've shown in a video, and they get a comment reply that's derogatory or demeaning, or well, why don't you just Google it or whatever? Delete it immediately. I don't tolerate that stuff. It's absolutely appalling behavior, and it's certainly not becoming of a steward of amateur radio who is supposed to be promoting it and recruiting new members into it. Behavior like that turns people away from it. So, if you ever have a question on one of my videos and you leave a comment, don't worry about it. I mean, like I said, we're all at Standing Wave. We're all on top of it to make sure comments are kept respectful. And I hope that the crowd that we attract to that channel, just like this podcast, are the type of people who are going to be respectful to others. I don't tolerate this type of behavior. So I've dealt with so much of it when I was coming up in amateur radio that I'm over it. Life is too short to worry about morons who want to make people think how, look how smart I am or whatever. You don't need those people in your life. You really don't. Focus on the good ones, get on the air, make new contacts, make new friends, ignore the butt heads. There's a lot of them out there, so you're going to be doing a lot of ignoring of people. But the moral of the story is never be ashamed to not know, right? The beginning of wisdom is, what's the most fundamental question in science? I don't know, right? That's the most fundamental statement. I don't know. It's the beginning of wisdom. For you Star Trek fans out there, it was a great line from Data. You know, this is the beginning of the beginning of wisdom is, I do not know, and then he says, I do not know what that is. So, yeah, never be afraid to admit that you don't know. Nobody knows everything, right? We're all learning. We're all in this struggle together, and it's the struggle that makes life worth living, and it's so much more enjoyable when you don't have to put up with the butt heads. So keep that in mind. Just ignore the butt heads. Stay away from them. You know, fortunately, if you stick to the like-minded people, you know, it usually works out for the best. So anyway, I think that's enough negativity from me. I promise in the next episode 5, will be most positive. It will be uplifting. It will be upbeat. It will inspire joy through the masses. Hopefully. Anyway, have a fantastic day if you already aren't. As I said, it is now 04:30 here, or close enough to. So I think I'm going to go have some breakfast. I'm going to contemplate on how those eggs got to my refrigerator and why they cost so much these days. But as always, remember, be kind. Everyone's fighting a battle that you don't know anything about. Ignore the butt heads. Learn something new every day. Remember that everyone else is out there learning too. So when they ask a question, even if to you it seems like an obvious answer, don't treat them like they should know it. They're coming to you for help. That's a very noble thing, to help someone who doesn't know, right? Don't mistreat them. Be uplifting. Be kind. Be the wise old owl. You know, don't say if you don't know. So, with that, I've already said have a fantastic day. But have a fantastic day. I really do mean it. This is Alan, N0, ZFG, out.